You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Welcome back to the Friday Review. Good to have you with me here today. Looking forward to today's show. Looking forward to closing out the week with hopefully a lot of great content for you with a lot of actionable takeaways. So always love my Fridays because Fridays bring together the entire week. Things that I've been reading about my research that I've seen happen in my practice. I typically have a couple book recommendations or products that I'm using in my own home, like the avocado slicer last week. So a lot of times they're just fun ones that I like to bring you. Sometimes a little bit more serious. Well, today, I want to recap what has gone on over the past week because it has been just such a busy couple of months. Now, the nice thing is this, as we move into this time of December, we start to move into the holidays, right? For those celebrating Hanukkah, happy Hanukkah right now. Hopefully you are enjoying this early Hanukkah season. For those celebrating Christmas coming up or any holidays that you may be celebrating, we have a couple weeks of the hecticness of gift buying, all of those different things going on as well. So I do hope that you're enjoying this time of the year. It is literally my favorite time of the year. I love the holidays. Even the cold in the Boston, New England area is bearable through January 1st because, you know, it's Christmas. It's supposed to feel maybe a little bit cold outside. Once it gets to January, February, I could do without the cold, but I'm a New Englander. It is what it is. So what I want to do is just share with a couple things this week, all the great things that have been happening, going on, and then I want to move into a few podcasts or a podcast interview that I was on that was absolutely, I thought, fantastic. Great host to that show. Bring you a book on a woman's guide to definitely empowerment overall in life. Love this book as well. Some research. Just quick, three research topics that I think that you can share with your friends that are unbiased. And then, of course, our super nutrient of the week. So let's get right into it. This past week, we had our last opening for the Integrative Health Practitioner Certification. And we just opened October, right around October 4th or so. So this essentially marked 60 days of opening, 70 days or so that the Integrative Health Practitioner opened. I can essentially tell you it's been about 10 weeks because we just finished our last module of the Integrative Health Practitioner Level 1. Well, it's been literally one of the most amazing things that I've been a part of, really since I've started my functional medicine-based career. And the people that we've had join this group, I know I've said it before, but I will say it again, some of the most compassionate, caring people that I've ever met all over the world. And they're in our private Facebook group, and they're going through the module at their pace, or the modules, because this is a go-at-your-own pace course and certification. It is closed now. We'll reopen in the new year, but for right now, we really just want to take care of our new members, welcome them on board. All together with our 3 different openings over the past 3 months, we now have over 500 of essentially our charter members. The 2018 members, the very first ones in the program, over 500, and it's just been an absolutely unbelievable experience getting to meet all of those people, and I look forward to doing many more events. We're going to do live events in the future, and also we do our Q&A days every 4 to 6 weeks as well, and our next Q&A day will be in January. So excited about that. Just wanted to welcome everyone who joined the Integrative Health Practitioner Certification on board. Happy to have you and do appreciate you. The other thing I wanted to say is that for me, and I hope that this is part of maybe your life as well, and I talked about this last Monday on our Mindset and Motivation Monday. I do hope that you checked out that there has to be a period of your life where you work in sprints and then you have a little bit of downtime. So for me right now, I literally sprinted from halfway through September for sure until this week. And that's a long sprint. Now there's the weekends off, there's things like that. There's no doubt about that. But I had to do a couple travels in there for sure. And that's a big part of my schedule, and it will be for the foreseeable future. But what I do, and I do hope that you'll join me on this, is for the next couple weeks is that I have my normal schedule. Like, I have a normal schedule that I typically do, but I don't add a lot of extras. And by not adding the extras, it allows me to energize and recharge. But then when January 1st comes, now that I've been kind of holding back, like literally holding myself back, I have all of this energy to be able to run right out of the gates. So I'm just such a huge advocate of basically sprinting, taking some downtime, sprinting, taking some downtime, basically interval training for your life. And it's one of those things that I think you'll be able to reinvigorate your passion if you give yourself a little downtime. So I do hope you'd find at least a long weekend, or not go to every holiday party there is that you get invited to, and you take a little bit of time for yourself as well. All right. I want to share this podcast with you, interview that I was just on. And this was with Dr. Chavez, really amazing and intelligent host of a podcast called Your Nutrition Prescription. And I believe, and I don't want to misquote, but I believe Dr. Chavez is actually a PhD in nutrition, so he knows his stuff. And we did about an hour, a little over an hour-long podcast, and I went in depth on a lot of my health history that I haven't really necessarily shared a ton before. And people know kind of a little bit about my story, but I went a little bit more in depth with Dr. Chavez. That was a very, very fun episode. And then I talked about how important it is, this thing that we call the rain barrel, that we begin to take stock of where we're currently at. So I gave some of my tips and recommendations on that show. What I'm going to do is everything on today's show will be linked up at StephenCabral.com/1036. And a couple people let me know that on yesterday's show, 1035, there was a couple missing links. We did go back and add those as well. So we'll always update our show notes pages. Our show notes are essentially anything that we spoke about during the show. We'll link it up there, whether it's a book or whether it's all the different types of products to basically transform and tone up your physique in a clean way. I talked about those yesterday. I linked those up as well to all the different websites, etc., to make it easy for you. So I'm going to link up Your Nutrition Prescription podcast right at 1036. Do hope you give that a listen. Also, last week, really great response to the podcast I was on with Michelle Lemeroux and her podcast, The Good Life Coach. Well, she wrote a book, and people were asking about that if I had read the book. Well, I have read the book. It's called Design a Life You Love. Now, I know it's a woman's guide to living a happier, more fulfilled life. I understand that, but I still read the book anyways, and that's because I want all the information I can get, right? So what I did was I read the book, and it's going to take you maybe 30 minutes. It's a short book. It's concise, an hour at the most, about 100 pages long, which, I think that's the right amount of space to write a book. You want to write a book that people will pick up, that they can read in a night or two, And this is that type of book. It's called Design a Life You Love by Michelle Lemeroux. If you're interested in hearing our podcast together, just go back to StephenCabral.com/1029. That is linked up there as well. Great book. It's on Amazon, and I will link it up today at today's podcast show notes at 1036. Okay, let's move on to some absolutely fantastic research. Just quick snippets on how you can very easily begin to cut down your chance of dis-ease, right? So, I did a podcast a while back, is Can You Cheat Death? And I hope you check out that podcast. I know I've linked it up for my IHP community as well. But it's one of those podcasts that I just felt inspired myself when going through the research, that you truly can live a long, healthy, great quality of life by doing the simple things. And on that podcast, Can You Cheat Death, I just talked about the main reasons that people die at a young age are cardiovascular, stroke, being overweight, diabetic, and cancer. And I know cancer's a little less controllable because of exposure to certain things, but you can absolutely do your best. And you can do your, functional medicine detoxes every 12 weeks. And you can do all the other great things like keep up your antioxidants and follow the diet that I gave you in episode 1026, the only proven anti-cancer diet. So there's a lot you can do. But for the heart disease and the blood sugar and being overweight, you can absolutely control that. Now, is it easier for some people than others? It is. Unfortunately, it is. But that does not mean that we're always all dealt the same hand of cards, right? So a lot of things in my genetics are not that fantastic. That's the hand I was dealt. Well, it's okay. What I did was I played that hand, and I play in that hand to this day as best as I can, and it's going well. I've fixed myself of these particular issues. If you're overweight and struggling to lose weight, you can lose the weight, right? If you have type 2 diabetes and you have blood sugar-based issues, you most likely can begin to rebalance your body so you don't have that. Same with high cholesterol, same with high blood pressure, etc. And I've done shows on those as well. Well, let's go over today's, because this is on cardiovascular risk. This is amazing. This was absolutely amazing. This was a study of about 10,000 people, 40 different countries for 6 years, right? I only look at real research. Listen to this. By just adding 2,000 steps a day. Now, the average person walks about 3,000 steps. So just getting to about 5,000 steps a day. 5,000 steps a day lowers heart attack risk by 10%. Another 10% by what? Just walking. And what does 2,000 steps consist of? 20 minutes maximum of walking. That's it. So if you walk for 20 minutes a day, 20 minutes extra a day, 50 minutes total, literally, if you are on your feet walking for less than 1 hour a day, but 1 hour a day, you're going to lower your chance for the number one cause of death, heart disease, basically, by 10%. Pretty remarkable. I mean, absolutely remarkable. Listen to this, though. For every time a participant increased their steps for the day by 2,000, they lowered their risk for heart attack by another 8%. So if you walk 4,000 steps a day, now it didn't say this, but I'm going out on a limb saying most humans move for 3,000 steps a day. That's the average. That's what I've seen. You had 4,000. You're up to, let's do the math. 4 plus 3 is 7,000. Okay? If you do 7,000 steps per day, you decrease your risk for a heart attack by 18%. Now, if you've been listening to the podcast long enough, how many steps do I recommend? 10,000. That's 100 minutes of walking a day. That's being on your feet for a little over an hour and a half a day. That's it. There's 24 hours in a day. 16 hours awake if you're in bed for 8, maybe, an hour in the car or 2 hours in the car. You can be on your feet for an hour and a half out of 16 hours. And if you do that, now, I don't know that there's an upper limit to the study because I could not find the upper limit, but you could easily decrease by what? About 30%. 30% risk. You reduce by about a third by doing 10,000 steps per day. Pretty amazing, right? For just walking, that's it. You can do that. Trust me, you can do that. All right. People want to find this study? It was done by researchers at the University of Leicester in the UK. All the words that I seem to have to pronounce are impossible for me. So let me spell it out for you. Leicester. And everyone from the UK can absolutely give me a hard time on Instagram if they would like. But I'm pronouncing it Leicester. That's going to be my best guess. That's probably way off. Okay. And it was published in The Lancet, right? Very reputable journal. Okay. Next study is this. Love this study as well. This was a great one. To lose weight, what you want to do is get into the sunlight outdoors or in front of a bright light like I recommended before, right? The light box in the morning, which helps with seasonal affective disorder as well, especially this time of the year in the United States and Europe. 20 minutes outdoors, bright light, so it should be outdoors, lowered BMI than for people who got most of their exposure later in the day. Very interesting. Now, this is not a big study. So I want you to take it for what it's worth, but I always talk about circadian rhythm. So I wanted to bring this up because this needs a lot more research. Don't get me wrong. It needs a lot more research because there could be other factors, right? If someone's outside in the morning, maybe they're taking a walk, right? So that's allowing them at a slower pace, aerobic-based pace, to potentially burn more body fat. So there is that, or maybe they're just healthier in general because they're outside early in the morning. So there's a lot of factors that go into this, but I'll tell you what. it changes. So we always talk about blue light blocking, right? Blue blockers at night. And I agree with that. But you want the blue light in the morning, right? We don't want to block blue light in the morning because that's what's going to what? Shut off melatonin. But what else does it do? It tells your body that it's now time to wake up, ramp up, and that's not a bad thing. So our bodies are basically diurnal, and they're diphasic. Diphasic is a better way to put it. So we have 2 phases during the day. We have get up and get moving from basically 7 in the morning to not quite 7 at night, but around there from when it starts to be light from when it gets dark, right? So let's just say 7 to 7. And then we have the next phase, which is ramp down, 7 to 7, right? That's when we rest. That's when we cool down if we want to live a long, healthy life. Well, the same holds true with weight loss. And I'm going to be teaching this. No one knows this yet, but I guess I'm announcing it right now to quite a few people. But this spring, I'm going to be launching an in-depth way for those people that have not been able to lose the weight, keep the weight off. Now, that's all I'm going to say about it. But there's so much more. There's just so much more than diet and exercise. It goes so much further. And we know this from thousands of years, really, of Ayurvedic-based research and medicine, and the best of what I've seen over the past 20 years in the health and fitness industry. So I can't wait to share that with you. But I'll tell you right now, getting outside, allowing melatonin to go down, and allowing thyroid and cortisol to normal levels to increase earlier in the day, not end of the day, just like the study's showing. Again, small study, so I can't give it as much credence as I do the other ones. But this is great. Get outside, take your dog for a walk to work if possible, if it's under 30 minutes or whatever you'd like. Bike to work if you want, but get outside in the morning. Let those light rays touch your skin. Let them penetrate your eyes so that your body in the pineal gland, however you choose to pronounce it, stops producing the melatonin, tells the HPA axis to change to more of a cortisol-based basis and allow for normal production of thyroid as well. All right? Super important. Next study that I want to bring you is, so this is interesting because I was going through just some research, and I like reading a lot of older books on herbs, and I go back through my herbalism books and my traditional Chinese medicine books and Ayurveda books, as well. And I'm just looking to always see, like, hey, what am I missing? What am I forgetting? What have I read before that I'm not currently using in my practice right now? So one of the things that I just came across is, and I couldn't see it in my podcast search, so not really sure that I spoke about it before, but one particular plant-based medicine, because it is a plant, it is a particular, let's call it herb, very large leaves. They remind me a lot of the ginkgo biloba leaves, but much larger in nature, and it's called butterbur. And this is something very, very specific, and again, pronunciation is always off, so don't go by me. But this is something that we actually looked at quite a bit. It was used in Ayurvedic medicine, but we use it a lot more in traditional herbalism, more like Native American-based herbalism, as well as a lot of the European-based herbalism that I've done as well. So a lot of good studies on this. The American Academy of Neurology has done a study. The American Headache Society has done a study on this. And what they've shown is that the specific of the root or the rhizome has actually been linked to reducing the frequency, duration, and intensity of migraines. Now, you've listened to my podcast before, hopefully. If you go to StephenCabral.com/podcast, you can type in migraine. You'll actually find previous podcasts that I've done on this. Now, I like butterbur, but what I want to tell you is this. I'm going to give you the dosages right now, but I don't want you to stop there, okay? Because this is not how I practice natural health, but I want to help while you're in it. So 50 milligrams of the butterbur extract 3 times daily for a month, okay? Try it a month, 4 to 6 weeks to give it some time. After that, you can begin to reduce to twice a day, right? So you'll reduce slightly, and then you'll go down maybe the next month, the third month, to 1, if this helps to with the migraines, right? If it lessens or stops them completely. What butterbur does is actually helps with the dilation of the brain and cranial-based blood vessels. So it helps regulate that. There's a couple things I want to talk about though right now. So this is great. And again, been clinically studied to work. And there's a ton of anecdotal, like there's a ton of people out there that says, yes, this works. So what do I want to talk about right now? And I'll see if I can find a good product for you and link that up because I hadn't planned on that. But since I'm talking about it, I better get you a link, right? So let me do that for you right now. Migraines to me is not a deficiency in butterbur, right? no one's saying like, well, because I didn't get enough of this plant and herb, that's why I have migraines. We know that's not correct, right? It's just like you don't have high cholesterol because of a statin deficiency. So it's nice to use in the short term for relief while working on long-term results, right? Long-term underlying reasons. And that's the way that I practice. Someone wants to use a medication, that's their prerogative. But I'd rather have them use something natural and herbal-based, whether it be for any dis-ease they've been labeled with, while we're working the underlying root causes. Now, for migraines, we're going to look at leaky gut and intestinal permeability, right? We're going to look at why there might be a lot of inflammation. Of course, we have to look at the gut. We're going to look at heavy metals. We're also going to look at any type of cortisol or HPA axis dysfunction that could be affecting catecholamines and the constriction or dilation of blood vessels. I'm also going to look at an oxalate diet, a lectin diet, as well as a histamine-based diet, okay? Smoked foods, spices, herbs, aged foods can all affect migraines because of a histamine or cytokine-based release and production. So that's why I tell people, we'll figure it out. But I just named, about a half a dozen things, 8 different things. And that's because it isn't just one thing, right? So that's why people can say, I got rid of my migraines doing this, right? I took additional magnesium, right? Because magnesium's a great dilator, but it also balances calcium. Calcium can lead to hardening of the arteries. So that's why all of these things can be great, but that might not work for one person, okay? Another person, they fixed their gut. They worked on their allergies. They worked on their migraines. Okay, great. Another person may have an issue with nightshades or oxalates or grains, right? And the grains can go back to an improper gut. So we eliminate those and then they're good. Another person, again, might not do well with histamine, so we get rid of a lot of the herbs and a lot of the spices and a lot of the aged-based foods and a lot of the fermented foods, and then the migraines dissipate or go away as well. So, again, there are many reasons why. What we do is we lab test. That's always what I recommend. And, of course, you know that I'm a huge advocate of the Big 5 labs. If those are out of your reach, out of your price range, you can always go with the starter kit. The starter kit is the organic acids test, and it's the hair tissue mineral analysis. That will give you the bulk of what you're looking for, and it will even look at heavy metals in the hair tissue mineral analysis. It will look like electrolytes. It will look at all your minerals, and then your organic acids test will show you all of the it will show you candida overgrowth. It will show you C. diff. It will show you mitochondrial function. It will show you neurotransmitter byproducts. It will show you all your vitamins. So show you glutathione, ketones, fatty acids. I mean, it's a phenomenal test. So you can either run those with your local functional medicine practitioner, or at any time you can just kind of look over the site, see if it's right for you at equilibriumnutrition.com. So work with your naturopathic doctor or your integrative health practitioner or functional medicine doctor in your local area, or you can work with us over at equilibriumnutrition.com. It's totally up to you. But in the meantime, I see no reason, unless you've been told by your doctor, not to try some butterbur-based herbal plant-based medicine as well. So let me link that up for you today. And then last but never least, and we're coming to our last couple super nutrients of the week. That's it. Literally the end. It will be the end of December will mark the end of our Friday super nutrient of the week. Now we'll replace it with something else, hopefully that you find enlightening, or you find it at least actionable and giving you a greater in-depth knowledge, but we'll work on those as well. So today, though, this is actually by popular demand. Yesterday and today, transforming your physique. I get a lot of questions on this because I do work with a lot of celebrities. You'd probably know their name, and I work with a lot of athletes, and really fun to work with, as well. But again, I enjoy working with everyone pretty much the same because everyone has their own unique story and their unique goals. But a lot of people that I'm working with, they want to transform their body to the highest level. So they ask me all the time about this substance called creatine and whether I believe in it or don't believe in it. And again, it's like most things. I say, well, I believe in it for some people, but not for others. And people hate that answer always, right? Because they always want to put a supplement, put anything in a box, meaning like, do you believe in this or not? I'm like, I don't know what the believing is. I believe in the research, and I believe in the truth, and I believe in using it for the proper person. So I want to go through that today because I do believe that a lot of people are missing out on the benefits of creatine because they believe it's only for bodybuilders, right? Let me share with you some very unbiased research That's actually linked up on PubMed, the U.S. National Library of Medicine, National Institutes of Health, right on their webpage, and I will link this up for you. The title of this article is International Society of Sports Nutrition, Position Stand, Creatine Supplementation, and Exercise. Okay? This is pretty impressive. The following 9 points related to the use of creatine as a nutritional supplement constitute the position statement of the society. They've been approved by the research committee of the society. Let's get through them. Number 1, creatine monohydrate is the most effective ergogenic nutritional supplement currently available to athletes in terms of increasing high-intensity exercise capacity and lean body mass during training, ergogenic being put into the body. Creatine monohydrate supplementation is not only safe, but possibly beneficial in regard to preventing injury and or management or select medical conditions when taken within recommended guidelines. Number 3, there is no scientific evidence that the short or long-term use of creatine monohydrate has any detrimental effects on otherwise healthy individuals. Keyword, otherwise healthy individuals. If you are in renal failure, if you have cancer, or even pregnant or nursing, you're not going to use creatine. Okay, number 4, if proper precautions and supervision are provided, supplementation in young adults is acceptable and may provide a nutrition alternative to potentially dangerous anabolic drugs. I want to just take a minute here. When a lot of people at the gym that I was going to were using anabolic steroids, when I was in college, I decided, wow, wouldn't it be great to get the same gains as them, because they're not working any harder than me, but they're getting like 3 or 4 times the gains, right? But I said, not my path. My body's already a mess as it is. Let's not do that. So creatine monohydrate actually gave me an edge as an 17 or 18-year-old that I found extremely beneficial. The first time I took creatine monohydrate, I'm going to get to that actually in just 3 points from now, but I gained 14 pounds in a month. Now, that's, again, my body was just getting into weight training, so that's part of it, and it just soaked up all of this, basically, creatine. And again, keep in mind your muscles are 70+% water, so that a lot of that was cell volume. Now, you're not going to gain that much creatine unless you do what I did, and I'll talk about that in 1 moment. Okay, so again, what I'm saying is it gave me an alternative as a teenager to not using anabolic drugs, right? So at present, creatine monohydrate is the most extensively studied and clinically effective form of creatine for use in nutritional supplements in terms of muscle uptake and the ability to increase high-intensity exercise capacity. Number 6, the addition of carbohydrate or carbohydrate and protein to a creatine supplement appears to increase muscular retention of creatine, although the effect on performance measures may not be greater than using creatine monohydrate alone. What does that mean? Well, what I've found is that you actually get an increase in muscle size growth right there by adding a glucose or dextrose to it. So what I used to do was mix it with grape juice. And I would mix it with water and grape juice. 8 ounces of grape juice, and then the rest of it, 16 ounces of water. I would just put a spoonful 5 grams of creatine monohydrate in that, and I would drink it down. Now, I'm going to get to the loading phase in 1 moment. That is where I got the most uptake, especially directly after a workout, okay? It worked phenomenally well. To this day, because I've done obviously a lot of trials with this, this is 20 years, so that has absolutely worked the best. Let me share with you a little bit of what the studies say and then what I've seen in the real world as well. The quickest method of increasing muscle creatine stores appears to consume 0.3 grams per kilogram per day of creatine monohydrate for at least 3 days, followed by 3 to 4 grams per day thereafter to maintain elevated stores. Ingesting smaller amounts of creatine monohydrate, 2 to 3 grams a day, will increase muscle creatine stores over a 3 to 4 week period. However, the performance effects of this method of supplementation are less supported. I also feel that as well, because I've done it multiple ways. I've used creatine monohydrate probably a dozen times over the 20 years. Okay. So what can I say about it? Well, I completely agree with the research that you can actually get the benefit in terms of peak performance in sports by not doing the loading phase, but what I did was the loading phase, which is typically 5 grams 4 to 5 times a day for 5 days. That's always what it's been in natural bodybuilding or body transformation-based circles. It's essentially 5 grams, 4 to 5 times a day. You might do a little bit more if you weigh over 200 pounds, and if you weigh less than 150 pounds, you might do just 20 grams a day. That's pretty much on the money with this research, because the research says 0.3 grams per day per kilogram. 0.3 grams per kilogram. What does that mean? Well, if for easy math, take your weight, divide it in half, and then divide it by 3. That's basically it. Pretty easy. So for a 160-pound person, you're looking at somewhere about 25 grams per day. Just what we spoke about, right? So 5 days of that if you're looking to max out. Now, I never gained 14 pounds again than that very first time. Typical gain for me would be somewhere between 5 and 8 pounds in that week. Now, I tried if I did the loading phase. So if I did it again today, how much would I gain? I'd say I'd gain probably about 4 to 5 pounds. Not as much, because there's an upper limit, and I do believe that if you are still exercising and you're trained, you have a little bit more muscle maturity, you'll still get the benefits, but maybe not as much of the size-wise. Now, keep in mind, this isn't all about size. I'm getting to that in one moment. When I did not do loading phases at different times, I did not get the increase in muscle volumization, because that's really where the size comes from. Your body holds more sarcoplasm, or holds more water. Now, it does show in the studies, and I'll show you that as well, about a 2 to 3 times increase in myofibril, or actual muscle fiber, over 12 weeks, and that's pretty impressive as well. So it is changing the actual muscle density besides just the volume. But here's the thing. If you're not looking to gain size with creatine, you'll simply do 2 grams, 2.5 grams or so per day, and you won't do a loading phase. That will not allow you really to gain a lot of weight with it. How much will you gain? You might gain maybe 2 pounds, maybe 3 pounds over the course of 6 weeks. Not a lot, but it's not going to look like body fat. So that's the difference. Your muscles will just look a little bit more toned, a little bit more full. So don't think about that. Gaining body fat, bad. Holding more water inside the muscles, not bad. So I just want to talk about that. All right, the last 2 points on this is this. Creatine products are readily available as a dietary supplement. We don't need to talk about that one. Creatine monohydrate has been reported to have a number of potentially beneficial uses in several clinical populations, and further research is warranted in these areas. So again, really great study. Let me just back that up with a little bit more. Those people looking for, how do I get more energy out of this? Like, why would I use creatine besides trying to transform my body? Well, creatine also does a few other things. And the main thing is this. Yes, it can increase the volume of the muscles themselves, but it can increase testosterone and IGF-1 levels without increase in meat or exercise. That's pretty impressive, right? So if you're someone that is vegan or following a vegan-based diet, and you use a creatine monohydrate extract, which is just basically, it is synthetic, but it's an extract, then, and you want to increase your own testosterone and IGF-1 levels and your gains, maybe you decide to use that instead of meat, okay? So what is creatine in general? Well, because I probably should have explained that. So your body gets creatine on a daily basis from many different foods that we eat, and it's stored inside the muscles as what's called phosphocreatine. Well, then that's about where 95% of all of it's stored. Why does this matter? Well, this is where it gets really good. Creatine is called upon when your body needs to make ATP, which is just adenosine triphosphate, and it's what's used for short-term energy, short-term bursts of energy. So this allows people, like if you get fatigued walking up the stairs, creatine helps with that, right? If you get fatigued with manual labor in the gym, any of those things, it helps with that. It's actually been shown now to even help with aerobic-based exercise, right? So improves cell signaling. It improves cell hydration. It raises naturally the anabolic hormones as well. Helps with myofibril that I spoke about, adding mass. What else does it help with that you might not have even heard before? And you're welcome to do your own research on this, because I know that I'm going a little long on today's podcast. Helping, and studies are being shown that it's being used with Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, Huntington's disease, ischemic stroke, epilepsy, brain or spinal cord injuries, motor neuron disease, memory, and brain-based function, which ties back to the Alzheimer's, Parkinson's as well. So if you have any interest in this, you can obviously do your own research, and I encourage that on creatine. Would I recommend it with someone with kidney-based issues? I would not. What about liver issues? I would not. It needs to be processed by those two organs. Let's say that you have cancer and you don't want an anabolic supplement. Again, I would not recommend it for this. I would not recommend it if you're pregnant or nursing. But most other people, based on what I spoke about today, may get some benefit. And how long can you use it for? I usually use it for about 8 to 12 weeks maximum. And then you can come off, and then you can decide to come off for 4 weeks, 6 weeks, or maybe a 1-to-1 ratio and go back on if you choose to. Maybe just choose to use it once a year. You can decide. What I'm going to do is link up a very clean version of it at stevencabral.com/1036. So that is it for today's show. I do appreciate you tuning in. Hopefully that was helpful. I always enjoy your feedback. Let me know over on Instagram. It's just my name, Steven Cabral, over there with a PH, Steven with a PH. And of course, all the links, all the show notes, everything is available at stevencabral.com/1036. I look forward to speaking with you, talking with you tomorrow on our weekend house calls. Take care, everyone. Ever wonder what the best sauna, blue blockers, sleep trackers, wake lights, salt lamps, or other health gadgets are? Or what about the top non-toxic mattresses, sheets, soaps, bath products, toothpaste, and cookware? Or would you like to know the cleanest choices for hemp parts, meal delivery services, supplements, and much more? I personally curated, researched, and now created a resource page of all of my top picks that continues to grow each week. These are the exact products I use in my own life, with my family, in my private practice, and they're the ones I trust. To find out all of my up-to-date recommendations and all the details, simply head on over to stevencabral.com/resources.